There's two parts to just figuring out if you can do an ADU. And the first one is there's feasibility and there's finance. Those are the two things that cost no money to get started on, and they're going to set your whole plan in place. We've talked a lot about financing today, but we're going to talk about feasibility. How do you know what you can build on your property? So let's talk about this first. By state law, you can build up to 4 units on the property, and HCD and state law has clarified this. You can build a detached ADU. Realistically, maximum size is 800 square feet unless you have a really big front house. There are setback different distances between the main house and the detached ADU. And those are kind of local, but generally speaking, they're between 4 and 8 feet, usually closer to 8 feet, because they've got to have fire separation. Um, the second thing is you can have an internal conversion. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So you can wall up part of your house, like that formal living room and dining room. And then you can have a junior ADU, which is 500 square feet. So that's how they get up to 4 units. So that's number one. The number one question, it's interesting, most of the ADUs we see are the conversion of the detached garages. And most people think, oh, I'll just go in and clean it out or whatever. Here's the trick with the detached garages. Most of them, unless if they were built before 1990, 2000, and they were built very flimsily. And so the concrete housing standard on the concrete, the foundations is you've got to be 6 inches deep with reinforced rebar. And on the corners, you've got to have 1 foot footings, right? And what most garages floors, I mean, they're all cracked up because
Oh
they've got no
yes.
rebar. They're 4 inches. So if you even take your toe and dig down a little bit or a little shovel, you can see how deep it is. Most of those get replaced for that reason because you've either got to prop it up with extra underneath with extra concrete, or you can just demo it and just build what you want.
Mhm.
And also the roofs and the roof trussing are usually, if they're detached, they're usually not nearly as strong as the attached roofs, and they're not maintained often. So usually you've got to have that totally, a trussing totally rebuilt. The only time where you would keep part of that dwelling and is if it's on the property line. So if you have existing structures that are closer than 4 feet to the property line are grandfathered in, so you don't have to move them, but you got to keep up one of the walls. If you're knocking it down, you have to be at least 4 feet in from the property line. So that gives you a sense of feasibility of what you can do. If you don't have room in the backyard, your front setbacks are 15 feet from the front property line. Now, if you have a sidewalk in front of the front property line, that edge of the sidewalk is your property line. It's not all the way to the curb. So that's something to think about as well. And you can go down to the local permit office and just ask them. It's literally, they call it the permit counter because it's literally like a counter. And you walk up and there's somebody there, and a lot of times they have a TV in the back and they'll pull up your property and say, you say, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. You want to ask them questions that aren't yes or no questions. You want to ask them open-ended questions like, what could I build, right?
Mhm.
If you were me, what would you build? Tell them what your goals are. And if it's their idea, tell them they're brilliant and then get their card.